Hello viewers, you are watching QTV, the Gambia's first private TV station, and we are broadcasting live from our studios here on Kairaba Avenue. My name is Aliou Sise, and this is your weekly State of Affairs program. Well, this week I am joined on the program by Mr. Babukar Boy, who is the Gambia's Minister of Public Service, Administrative Reforms, Policy Coordination and Delivery. I will challenge him on the ongoing reforms, achievements, challenges, and the way forward. Honorable Minister, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me, Aliou.
To start with, you are the minister responsible for this critical sector. Could you just share with us as to what is your assessment of the current state of public service in the country?
Well, thank you very much, Aliou. As you know, the Ministry of Public Service, Administrative Reforms, Policy Coordination and Delivery was established in 2022 with the mandate to organize government, coordinate and oversee the development, management and administration of policies, systems and to drive the responsive public service delivery. Currently, the ministry is involved in a lot of things. They are all organized around three reform pillars. And the first one is administrative reform pillar, which aims to attract, retain, motivate the optimal number of qualified, staff in the public service. The other is to, reinforce meritocracy, due process and professionalism in the public service, and to achieve optimal organization and staffing of the public service. The second pillar is on the strategy and policy coordination. And in this pillar, we are targeting to maintain the highest standards in public service and to strengthen collaboration between government and our development partners. As you know, the government works a lot with development partners in the implementation of its programs. And the final pillar is the performance management and delivery. And in this pillar, we are looking at enhancing ethical conduct, disciplines, performance, transparency, and accountability in the public service. As we implement this reform agenda within these pillars, we have several key, activities which I will delve into later in the program. But for now, I would basically say that these are the three pillars around which our reforms are, revolving with a view to making the public service delivery more efficient. You talked about challenges. As you know, with every reform, you are bound to have some challenges. I'll also go into those, details later as I explain some of the activities, because most of the activities, when you introduce them new, you will encounter some form of, resistance here and there, some challenges that are to do with maybe the personnel that are supposed to implement those reforms. But we'll get into those details later on.
We will get to them. Like you said, thank you for actually telling us what the core mandate of your ministry is. You talk about issue of meritocracy. Just take us through, since the establishment of this ministry in 2022 by the president, what have been some of the progress made in terms of ensuring that, you are able to enhance efficiency, of course, transparency and accountability?
Well, I'll begin with, first of all, the recruitment process. Okay. Because prior to the establishment of the ministry, the Public Service Commission that has been responsible for the recruitment of personnel in the public service have been using, paper-based, recruitment system, and it really limited the, opportunities for people, especially those outside the country, to be able to, participate in the process with a view to being, appointed. Now, the system they have in place, it's all, online. You do the application online. Okay. In fact, they even conduct interviews online. So people who are, applying for positions outside the country are able to, submit their applications, get interviewed, and, the outcome of the, interviews communicated to them. Okay. And this is all to make the system open for, everybody who feels you want to, participate in the recruitment, process. You have the opportunity. And really, it has helped, government to tap into resources that ordinarily wouldn't have been available, locally. And the feedback we have received is that even the scoring, the way it's done, it's so, transparent that you, the individual being interviewed, they would tell you, your performance immediately after the interview as compared to, others. And the turnaround time in terms of the recruitment process is much faster now.
I mean, talking about issue of recruitment and hiring, they're having complaints of favoritism and political interference somehow during hiring. How is your ministry addressing this, if so it exists?
Well, if a position is to be filled, or positions that exist in ministries are to be filled, you go to the PSC, website, you see the advert, even the duration that the advert would last, they normally indicate, so that people would know that within maybe 1 week or 2 weeks, they need to apply. And the shortlisting is done, again, using, the system. And I don't know where the issue of political interference is coming, but a system where the interviews are done by members of the commission and the scoring is done with experts within, the panel, I doubt if there would be any room for, political interference. I would hasten to say that, there are some positions that, the executive have the authority to, hire, okay, with consultations with the Public Service Commission.
Or the Judicial Service Commission.
Yeah, or the Judicial Service Commission. So those ones don't go through this process of, online recruitment. Okay. But the ones that go through the online recruitment, I have not seen any room for, any kind of interference.
Aside from, being responsible for, of course, public service, the issue of policy coordination is also central to the mandate of your ministry. Kindly share with us, how does your ministry ensure that there's that effective coordination, of course, between government agencies, ministries, and departments?
Yeah, in fact, the issue of coordination stems from the, point where policies are being drafted. Okay. Because, as you know, every ministry to operate, efficiently, you need to have a policy. Definitely. That would, in fact, have a strategic plan to be able to implement the policy. Yeah. Now, the role of our ministry, and it's being done through, we have a unit called the Policy Analysis Unit within the ministry. And what it does is, when ministries are at the stage of drafting policies, they get involved from that point. Mm-hmm. And at the time when the policy is, complete, they would also take the policy and look at it alongside existing policies to ensure that you don't have duplications of, mandate. When it comes to implementation, there wouldn't be any issue about having the same policy being assigned to, two different ministries. So that policy analysis unit does the analysis and advises ministries concerned as to what they need to adjust in the policy to make sure that there is coherence within the, overall policy setup in government.
In terms of the coordination, can you just give us an example, where you were able to coordinate, this policy across, ministries, like you said, you were trying to avoid the duplication of maybe two agencies or two ministries doing the same thing?
Well, I can give you a few examples. If you recall, we have this Directorate of Development Planning at the Ministry of, Finance.
Yeah.
And in our ministry, we also have the, delivery unit.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to the issue of, the National Development Plan being, coordinated, the coordination was done at the level of the Ministry of Finance's, delivery unit. Sorry, Directorate of Development Planning. But then they were working very closely with our, ministry, our Department of, Policy Analysis and Delivery, to a point that, what appeared in the National Development Plan was drafted in a way that ministries that are responsible for certain things that would have had some form of, gray areas when it comes to knowing which area, should fall within a ministry, were all dealt with through that, work we did with the Department of, Development Planning. Recently, we have also developed a policy framework that ministries should use when it comes to developing, their policies, to make sure that their aims and objectives of their policies align with the National Development Plan.
So a uniformity.
That is it.
Okay.
All right.
But in terms of projects, I don't know whether it still exists, where you have, ministries have their different project coordinating unit. At some point I had someone saying, why don't we just have one central project coordinating unit that monitors all these government projects than having a ministry with your project coordinating unit, like Ministry of Agriculture. I have seen their office when you're entering Banjul. So other ministries equally have their own separate project coordinating unit.
Well, the issue of project coordination, I can tell you based on my experience, there is nothing wrong in having a project coordination unit within a ministry that will be responsible for all projects being financed by different donors within that ministry. If you were to check, the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education had, in the period 2004 to 2015-16, a very solid project coordination unit that has one single project manager and several staff that were being, financed by different donors. And it helped project coordination to a level that you would see, for example, one staff, maybe the financial controller, being, sponsored by the World Bank, the construction program manager being, financed by the African Development Bank, the project manager being financed by the EU. So, and they're all doing the same work for those different donors. But then in some ministries, the problem of coordination was not sorted out the way the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education was able to sort it out. And they had different project managers for each project. Like I remember in the case of agriculture. And to address that, the Agriculture Ministry has now got what they call a central project coordination, the unit called CPCU.
CPCU.
All right, it's like a replica of what the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education had in the form of project coordination unit. The issue of monitoring, obviously, monitoring will have to happen at different levels. Okay. In fact, there is a department at the Ministry of Finance that is responsible for monitoring of projects. In our ministry too, through our delivery, arm, we also do, project monitoring. So for me, having this centralized, project coordination unit for the entire government will pose more challenges than, addressing the core problems of, project management. So I'm saying this out of experience, and if you want to have, projects that are streamlined towards ministries, strategic plans, the best approach would be to have, one single PCU managing all the projects coming from different donors. And that way you will be able to even get, like one activity being financed by different donors.
Okay. Aside from that, what else are you doing to reduce, this problem of, bureaucratic delays that sometimes tend to hinder service delivery to citizens? You talk to some Gambians, they will like, okay, sometimes you go to these ministries and departments just to get a service. It takes like weeks, months because of that bureaucracy that exists. Mr. X is not here, so I cannot act in his or her behalf, or some people are unwilling to even delegate someone to, carry out that.
Well, for the service delivery, what we have initially observed is that even the process of delivering the service in some ministries, required revisiting, because the steps involved, you will realize in some cases, were not necessary. And what we embarked on recently is what we call service process simplification, to make sure that for a ministry or an agency to deliver a service, you would need to embark on the barest minimum number of steps to get that service delivered. Okay. It's being, tested, because we have taken 5 services for a start, okay, and did the process simplification. Recently, we included another 3. In fact, the ones that we took were the process of acquiring passport, okay, ID card, driving license, registering business, and also there's a 5th one which I forgot. Okay. But we also recently included 3 more that includes the process of leasing of property. And interestingly, when the staff who are, who were from the Ministry of Lands came and participated in the service process simplification, they were able to reduce the number of steps that is involved in the, leasing process from 83 to 23. Okay. So we are hoping that when these things are all finalized, one, the process will be simpler and faster. Then the attitude of staff, when it comes to attending to, people, we are looking at trying to, digitalizing the process, okay, so that instead of having, a human face, every time you need a service, you will need now, when it comes to payment, you will have, a system through which you can pay, provided that all the necessary documentations that you are asked to provide are provided and, submitted online. These are some of the things that we are embarking on to make sure that, citizens get better.
Yeah, because the reason I ask is that not all of them, but most of the people tend to believe that they are doing you a favor by offering you a service. And then some, unless you give in something, you don't get your services as you want and on time.
Well, if that is the belief that some public officers have, it's not correct, because if you look at the Civil Service Code of Conduct, one of the first values of a civil servant is to consider, people that come to your office as your customer. That's part of the, Civil Service Code of Conduct. And if you don't treat, those who come to your office as customers, you will be making a big mistake in thinking that you are doing them a favor. It's actually not a favor. You are being paid to do that job. So if that is the case, I think we need to be reminded, or we need to remind ourselves that they are, we are there not to consider ourselves as doing favor for people who come for the services, but it's their actual, right to have those services.
Because it's important, especially for us as journalists. We have the access to information law. For example, personally, for over a month, I've been following the Minister of Interior for an interview regarding the National ID Card project. I can still get an interview. Someone is giving the opportunity to come and clarify and tell us how far you have gone with the project, yet you are tight-lipped over this important national project. So these are some of the issues that some of us are facing. Yes, government is more open in terms of giving information, like you're coming here today, it's a manifestation, but we still have a long way to go. Away from that, during his SONA address last year, the president said, and I quote, that an estimated total of 83,155 employees are in the entire public service. He went further to say, I quote again, there are 8,427 vacant positions across the ministries. Most of them are in the Ministry of Interior, Defense, and Health. How far have you gone in filling these vacancies?
Well, during the course of 2024 and the beginning of 2025, in fact, mainly during the course of 2024, those ministries have actually embarked on some recruitment exercises, and a good number of the vacancies that were quoted in that, have now been filled. And we have even reached a stage where we're trying to cap the number so that we don't go beyond, the target that we have set in the approved budget. So really, those vacancies have now been filled. What we are now trying to deal with are those that have left the system unceremoniously, to account for them and make sure that from the ministries that they are coming, when they want to, recruit, they will be recruiting within those numbers. Because we just conducted a staff audit. In fact, the initial one was in the Ministries of Basic and Secondary Education, Health, and Agriculture. As we speak, we have 1,435 people that we have not seen after we stopped their salary at the end of September. So this week, we have communicated to the Public Service Commission for them to be dismissed.
So why did it take you that long to be able to come out? Over 3,000, Honorable Minister. These people, we are just being paid.
No, in fact, you see, that is why...
You were shocked to realize that this is happening.
Yeah, you see, that's why we are trying to institutionalize this, biometric attendance machines. Yeah. So that within a month, we will be able to, determine those who have left unceremoniously and stop the salary.
And but those who are not coming to work on time.
Those who are not coming to work on time. But you see, depending on a paper-based system, these are some of the, challenges that you face. And really, this we hope once it's, deployed everywhere, we will not have this problem of, having to go and do a physical staff audit. But that has been the problem, and it has been there for many, many years.
Is this something you have started or you are considering?
No, we've started. Oh. In fact, we have deployed about 100 machines so far. Okay. And that's why, if you were following the news, sometimes you would see us go to certain ministries, through these unannounced visits to see how the machines are being, utilized to capture the attendance data, both in terms of, regularity and, punctuality, because we also want to know those that are coming on time and those that leave before time. So what we do when we go, sometimes we don't even go in the morning. We go around 3 p.m. to see whether people have left before 4 o'clock.
And sometimes I'm sure you might even find the head of the institution has even left.
Well,
I know it happens.
The head of institution, you see, for the head of institution, one has to be very careful, okay, because of the nature of their work. They may leave their offices, but they may be somewhere attending a meeting. Mm. You understand? Sometimes you may find a situation where, especially in the field ministries, yeah, you will not see somebody coming to work for 3 days, 4 days, but the person would be on track. Mm. So we are devising a system that will capture those kind of, cases, because we don't expect that 100% of the staff, yeah, will be in the office, from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock, from Monday to Friday. Some will be engaged in meetings outside their ministries. Some will be, be on track, up country, but we will be using a mechanism through which you will be able to determine those that were not in the offices for, some authorized reasons or very good reasons. But I would not want you to believe that if somebody is not in the office by 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, the person has left for home or, And these are things that definitely I know for a fact that it's happening. Some would go to meetings at 3 o'clock. They will leave their offices and go to other offices, at 3 o'clock for meetings. And if you go and you don't meet them there, you may think that they have left, the office early. But I think to deal with that.
But the leadership also has a huge role to play in this thing.
Yes.
Leadership in an institution.
That is why, for me,
because if you are the honorable minister or you are a director and you come to work every day at 10 a.m., what example are you showing to those under you? But if you come as early as 8:30 or 8 o'clock, they will, this man is serious.
A very bad example, exactly, indeed. And yeah, I cannot agree more with you. Yeah. But then I also want to say that really for us to be able to deal with that kind of situation and serve the public better, I don't believe that the absence of one officer, in a directorate should prevent somebody, yeah, coming into that office looking for, yeah, we are talking about a system.
Exactly.
The moment it, revolves around an individual, you are creating a problem. It has to be, a team, that will be responsible, so that in the absence of one, there will be somebody who will be able to deal with the issue. Because you don't expect, people to be there 100% of the time. Some, as I said, will, for a very good reason, have cause to go out of their, offices. But if that happens, when they come for a service, I don't expect the individual to have to go away because the officer that is in charge is not, there.
And this could be someone who will go out there and say the system is not working.
I know.
And yet you are not doing what you are supposed to do.
For me, what I would always encourage the leadership to do is to build a system that will not depend on an individual. The system, an office, in most cases, would not have one person. Yeah. You will have maybe a director and an assistant and, a principal officer. If the director is there, is not there, the person coming for a service in that, institution should be able to get, either the deputy director or the principal officer to be able to attend to the person. And this is part of a culture, that ministries should try, or departments or agencies should try to develop to be able to serve citizens better.
I mean, so in terms of gender equality in leadership and decision-making roles, what is your ministry doing to be able to at least, ensure, we have that gender equality?
Well, for gender equality, I can tell you there are some concerted efforts being done. In fact, I can tell you that...
I know in the public service we have like almost 49,893 are male, and then 21,953 are female.
Yeah, I mean that's the figure for the entire public service. I mean it is different from the civil service.
Yeah.
Because the public service includes,
the civil service is 49,000.
That's it.
That's the civil service.
Yeah, I mean yes, you have more male in the system than female. But as I was saying, even this current project that we are implementing, there is a target that we have set ourselves to be able to meet in terms of having female in leadership position by the time the project ends. This is aimed at ensuring that we have more women. And I can tell you, when the university started having a lot more female in certain positions, we are now getting more female, graduates in the system.
Yeah.
And I think the problem of the male dominance is part of the legacy of the way the education system has evolved over time. But now that even at the level of senior secondary, we've got gender parity, and that is going to move to into the tertiary level, we'll be able to get more female.
Okay. And I mean, when you look at this figure, as the minister, do you believe that this figure that we have, actually aligned, with our national, productivity targets and budget constraints? Do you think this figure is on the high side, or there is still the need to?
No, in fact, these numbers have to be looked at within a context. And the context is you must be able to look at the optimum number that you need based on the skill sets that are also required. And that is why we also, part of the work that we've done in the as part of for our reforms is skills gaps assessment. Okay. Because if you want to avoid a situation where you will have more of a particular group than another group, you really need to look at the skills that are needed in the system to do the work that the public service is required to do. So we've done that. We've now established the skills gaps, and we are now designing some programs to fill those gaps. But I can tell you, in some ministries, definitely they are not operating optimally because the numbers that they have, especially the new ones.
Okay.
All right, and that's why we are being careful as we monitor the numbers to make sure that we don't go overboard. Okay. We also don't want to close the the tap to prevent ministries that require staff to fill critical vacant positions to be able to fill them in order to be able to operate, because these are things that you have to deal with, because there is some kind of attrition that you have to deal with. Exactly. People come and go, yeah. And you lose some very critical staff, and if you don't fill those positions, yeah. You find it difficult to operate. In fact, prior to this salary increase, in fact, when we did the analysis, within 2 years we lost about 240 civil servants from the center to the, what we call the periphery, the state-owned enterprises, and so and they had to be, replaced.
And because I'm sure most of them will leave because of perhaps many complain about the issue of low wages. Is there any plan for salary review or harmonization? I remember at some point during the, meeting with the president, you mentioned the issue of having a plan to ensure you are able to review the salaries, and of course
the salary review has started, and the initial step we have taken is to increase the wages of those that are in the central civil service pool, to close the gap between that was there with the other parastatals, and then make sure that we also freeze that. That's why an executive order was issued to those parastatals not to increase their salaries, because the gap was too huge. So we've tried to close that gap. But in addition to that, we are doing what we call standardization. And with that standardization process, what we are trying to do is looking at the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. We are trying to match certain positions in these different organs of government, so that if you take, for example, the position of a minister in the executive, what would you match it with in the legislature? And for now, it's the minister and the deputy speaker. Then you have the vice president, the speaker, and the chief justice. All right. So we are working on trying to get all these positions in the different arms of governments standardized, so that when it comes to remuneration, what you pay in one arm is what you will now pay in the other arms, because they are at the same.
So how about those in the junior cadres? Because I know most of them will tell me, okay, they want to have a total salary structure where you might say, okay, no one working in governments will go home with minimum of maybe 15,000, even grade 1.
Well,
because they believe this piecemeal adjustment is not the solution.
No, but
the cost of living is going high every day.
But
a bag of rice is going up. If your salary is still at the same position, well, that might be a recipe for corruption and people going out their way, not being in office, going out to do rubber and all those stuff.
I can tell you, the recent salary increase has, to a very large extent, taken care of that, because the way the salary increase happened, we ensured that the lower grades had a bigger salary percentage increase, and as you move towards the higher grades, the increase, was reducing. So as we speak, nobody is going home with less than, $6,000.
So how is the ministry dealing with the issue of corruption or misconduct within the civil service?
Well,
I'm sure you must have come across reports of corruption here and there, audit reports and all those things. So how is your ministry dealing with this issue?
Yeah, let me start with the misconduct. The good thing about the civil service, we have rule books that actually spell out how you deal with these cases. That's it. How you conduct yourself. If you fail to conduct yourself in that manner, what should be done? In cases of, misconduct or misbehavior being reported, what we do is we send it to the Public Service Commission. They, do their, investigation by having their, panels that they set up. In fact, the way it's designed in the rule books is that when the Public Service Commission is to do any investigation, there must be a representative from the Judicial Service Commission. And they will have their committee that will report to the main one. Whatever the outcome of that investigation is, the Public Service Commission will communicate that to. In fact, recently we have had instances of misconduct, and it resulted to termination and dismissal. Okay.
But was this published? Was this made known to the public that your ministry has taken the decision against someone who was found to be violating? Well, that will tell the public that your ministry is.
We have the information, but
why is it not made public?
I mean, the issue about making it public, we are being careful, because if it is a case that maybe had been in the public domain of perhaps an officer that was, involved in misconduct, an investigation is done. If the person is dismissed, in fact, that usually would, be communicated to the ministry. What we have not been doing is to go out in the public to say that person X has been, dismissed. But as part of your, access to information, when you come, you can get that. But we don't actually publish those that are dismissed. If it is maybe a criminal case or a case of corruption that maybe went to the police for investigation and eventually went to the courts, and the person is, found guilty, those are published. But the ones that are actually reported and PSC does the investigation, we don't publish those ones. Okay. We don't publish those ones, and but then the information will always be there for people to know. Well, this case that was in Ministry X, how did it end? You can always get that information.
And do you also take action from people who are, accused of, maybe corruption, or people who are under police investigation? Do you send them on administrative leave, or you don't have that power? Yes,
if they are under police, investigation, we send them on administrative leave. Sometimes, they are, in fact, the terminology we use is interdiction. Okay. All right, until the investigation, and they go with half salary until the investigation is complete to determine whether the person is, guilty or not. In fact, when those accusations come, there is ground for further investigation by maybe the police. We don't leave you in your position.
So what happened to those who were, asked by the National Assembly's Public Accounts Committee to be sent on administrative leave for embezzling COVID-19 funds, who are still going to office? What happened?
Well, as far as I know, those that
I'm sure you are aware. I can give you names, but I'm sure you are aware of some who the PAC said they should be sent on administrative leave.
And they are
still going to work
in government. Yes. In central government
agencies as well.
Well, for central government, as I said, well, for agencies, the agencies are on the boards.
Yeah.
And if the PAC says that an individual, as far as the civil service is concerned, if the PAC says that the person should be sent on administrative leave pending.
It's FPAC, point of course. It's FPAC. Chaired by Honorable R.J.S. Dabo.
Yeah, if that happens, the person should be sent on leave. But if it is an agency, it's the responsibility of the board to make sure that the individual, is sent on leave. For those that are under the, central government being managed by the Public Service Commission, they will certainly go on leave. And if it is a case that requires also, police investigation, we let the police do the investigation, especially incidents that come out of audit, reports. When the case comes, it's referred to the police. If it is a case that requires further police investigation, it goes to the police for further investigation. And sometimes, when they find that there are grounds for prosecution, they send the, matter to the Ministry of Justice. So this is happening, and I know that sometimes the public wants, immediate action. But
yeah,
you cannot, when due process is going on, you cannot tell the courts, hasten this case, or, make sure that this case is concluded immediately. I mean, once we send it to the courts now for them to deal with, it's now a matter for the courts to, prosecute. And just like other civil cases, it might take longer than people would want or expect. And we allow the law to take its, its course.
How do you react to, I'm sure you are following developments. Just this morning we saw a document being leaked on social media regarding, 3.6 million, which was, requested as an urgent request to take the president's mom for medical checkup. It was leaked on social media. Are you surprised that such is happening? And if yes, why do you think this is happening? Is this out of the code of conduct? Does it allow for that?
The code of conduct does not allow it. Okay. Certain people who leak those documents are, doing it outside, the expected code of conduct. Such documents should not be in the public domain.
Why?
Because
it's taxpayers' money that they're using. This taxpayers' money. So why shouldn't the public know about it?
But if the public wants to know about it, your access to information, law is allowing you to go and ask.
Well, I've been following the Minister of Interior for over a month.
No, but what
they are still.
Let's try to separate the two.
Okay.
We are talking about a document, even if it was another document. The act of getting it leaked from, an officer within is wrong. It's different from you wanting to know based on your rights, given to you by the access to information. It's different. It follows a different, process. So for me, it's the act that I'm talking about. Okay. That is wrong, whether it is that document or another document. Public officers are not supposed to be, leaking, documents in government. If the public wants information from government, it's their right based on the, provisions of the access to information to ask for it. And what the law provides for, the ministries will be obliged to provide.
So how are you going to control that in this case? Do you have plans? Do you know how to control it?
Well,
I have heard your Minister of Information State he's going to regulate the online media. So will you also be able to control this?
For us, what we really want to do is to have a system that will be able to trace this type of, actions or behaviors to people who would be responsible. Because the IFMIS, for example, that we are running, when any action is done by an officer, when you go through the system, you will know who did it. All right? I think for us as a Ministry of Public Service, we will be looking at those, systems to ensure that when such things happen, we'll be able to trace the individual that would be, that may have been responsible.
I'm told we're running out of time, but Honorable, share with us, what have been your biggest challenges in terms of fulfilling your ministry's mandate?
One of our biggest challenges is to do with capacity. Okay. And as I said, the ministries have been, losing key staff at an alarming rate, to a point that even getting them, replaced to, do what they were, supposed to be doing had been a challenge. But we are hoping that at least with this new salary package, it may not stop it completely, but it will reduce it. Because definitely there are certain critical skills that any institution would require to be able to operate, optimally, without which it will be very, very, very difficult. That has been a problem that most ministries, departments and agencies talked about, and we have been trying to help them to fill the gaps as quickly as possible. And again, we are using, the training programs that we have been doing to make sure that those gaps are filled. But for the training, we are still trying to get back to the COVID level of, funding, because before the COVID, we were getting about 112 million for training. Okay. But during the COVID, that amount went down. We are now around 65, 70 million now. And that amount of money helps us to be able to train and get the numbers that we need in the system. Yeah,
because I know the issue of low wages, welfare is really key. You can train someone, but if the take home is not as attractive as it should be done, people are forced to leave. And I like the fact that you said, this is something that you are considering, and so you are able to not only attract the best, but be able to return them.
Yeah, actually, I will tell you, when the new salaries were paid in January, I had one officer in the management cadre telling me that for the first time he has received a salary and was able to take care of his basic needs and had something left to save. At least we know that this salary increase has helped a good number of people to be able to, provide the basic needs that they have. And we hope that it will contribute towards, retaining the staff in the system. That has been a big problem.
And Minister, just in under a minute, we're running out of time completely. What sort of a legacy would you like to leave as a minister?
Well, what I would want to leave as a minister is a system that will be efficient and would rely less on, human beings being, operating it. An automated system that will depend less on, what I would call discretion. I believe that if we are to provide services that would meet the expectations of the population, every individual should be able to say that if I need service X, it will take me X number of days to get it. If I don't get it, I will have a response to tell me why I haven't got it because I'm entitled to it. For us as a ministry, that's what we are aiming at, to make sure that the citizens get public service that will be efficient and will not depend on a human being having to use his or her discretion to determine whether you should get it or not.
Thank you very much, Babukar Boy, Minister of Public Service, Administrative Reforms, Policy Coordination and Delivery. Thank you so much for coming on the State of Affairs program. Well, viewers, with that, we bring an end to this week's edition of your weekly State of Affairs program. Do join us next week. Until then, bye-bye from me and the entire team.